Don't worry, this will be a long story made short about how a girl from Wisconsin came to live in the country of Georgia. So essentially, I was already living and volunteering in Israel. And if you know anything about living in Israel, they just provide you room and board for you to volunteer. And I was doing that with my mother and some friends. And so when that time was up, we decided to go to another country. So why Georgia? How did I get in Georgia? Essentially, Americans can stay 1 year visa free. I've never had to use a visa to come to this country, and I can stay more than 3 months, like most countries. So, a friend who also didn't want to go home to America after we were done volunteering suggested that we check out Georgia. So I went down the YouTube rabbit hole in 2015. And if you know anything about YouTube in 2015, it didn't have much about Georgia. Now you can go on and find plenty of things about Tbilisi. But back then it was just like Georgian traditional music and khachapuri and, just random things about, this old Soviet country. Obviously now there's a lot more information. But essentially I fell in love with it. Since I was a kid, I was really interested in exotic places, in different countries, different cultures. I always made friends with the international students. I always tried to learn different languages. So for me, this place being so unique and so different and so little information on it really is what sort of caught me. I never saw myself as someone who wanted to live in Europe. To me, it seemed too much like America, like there'd be nothing interesting of it. But with Georgia being that its location and that it has like, Turkish and Persian and its own Caucasian history, it's completely different than anything that I've ever experienced. So I know this might not be the super cool. I left everything behind and ditched my 9 to 5 and kissed my mother and my children goodbye and got on a plane and hopped over here to Georgia. But, stick with me. I arrived in Georgia with my friends and my mother on New Year's Eve specifically, and we were woken up to the whole city lights fireworks, and they still do that just from their balcony. Everyone shoots fireworks on New Year's, and so that's really my introduction to Georgia. Actually, though, we decided not to live in Tbilisi. We decided to explore Borjomi. So we were in Tbilisi 1 month and ended up finding and renting a place in Borjomi. And long story short, Borjomi imprinted me very much and is really holds my impression of the country because I first took a train ride there and it was in winter and there were these houses with chimneys and smoke coming out and just quaint little villages. If you were to ask people, whenever I tell people that I lived in Borjomi, which was for 4 years, almost five, they're like, why? you know, because it's just like a village. It's like it's not city life, but it's completely different, and that's what I liked about it. But that wasn't the end of the story. I didn't come to Georgia and live happily ever after and decide to spend the rest of my life in Georgia. I ended up becoming a little bit burnt out from, I want to say, digital nomad life, but I wasn't really traveling anywhere. I was just sort of at home in Borjomi. I had gotten a job working as an English teacher, which I know a lot of digital nomads start out as. I had found this company before, being a digital nomad or work from home was really a big thing back in my home city, Madison, and I was teaching Koreans English online. But there were too many uncertainties with the work, and I wasn't being paid enough. And then I worked for other schools and we're trying to find private students, and I just felt completely unstable. I felt burnt out from this unfamiliar life. And mid pandemic, firstly, I went to Albania and stayed for 9 months. And then I made the decision, which was really difficult for me, to go home to the United States. I really needed to sit down and to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Like I said, I had been in Israel for a few years. I had been in Georgia already 4 years, but at about 30, I was like, okay, I feel unstable. I need to choose a career. I need to sit down and just have consistency. I need to have some stability. I need to have some financial stability because I felt really financially unstable and not sure about my future and what to do with my life. And so essentially, I stayed home in the United States for about 2 years. I came home 2021. Um, and that's what I did. I sat down, I got two jobs because I just felt like I really wanted after that instability of like trying to find work as an English teacher, I just like gathered jobs to myself. So I had like two or three jobs. Um, and then I sat down and assessed what kind of career I would want. And I ended up becoming certified as a digital marketing specialist. But um, even with life home in the US and being more stable and being a little bit more financially free and trying to save and invest and do all these things, my heart was still in Georgia. It was still here. I wanted to come back. I always thought I would come back. I just thought I just needed more stability. So I got a job with a company in my home city, and I never thought that, and I never planned on coming back to Georgia. I planned on sitting and working for this company. But a few months in, I asked them if I could come and live overseas because my job was mostly on the computer. And also, technically, I had a boyfriend here. So that was another consideration. And they agreed to it. But the agreement was 3 months living overseas in Georgia and 1.5 months, 1.5 months at their company in Madison. So I got some in person time. And so essentially, that has been the agreement ever since. I came back to Georgia in August of 2023, and I chose to live in the capital city this time. And that's just so I can experience so much more of what Georgia has to offer all in one place. And yeah, I've been here essentially since then. Now I just feel like I'm in a place where I'm more balanced. Like it would be great to stay here all the time, but now I have the best of both worlds. If I ever feel like unstable or I'm not getting what I need, I can go home to the States, and I do every 3 months as per agreement. So I'm surrounded by family, I'm surrounded by familiarity. I can sort of rest in the places where I need to or grab an extra job if I need to. But I still have that option to explore this place, which I really feel like after 6.5 years, not consecutively, in Georgia, my heart is really connected here and connected to the people and the culture. And so having the best of both worlds, I find, is the thing that has worked out for me the best living abroad. And on this channel, I just want everyone to see what I see in this country. It's like so underrated. So many people don't know about it. There's still not so much information, in depth information about it. And I just want to show people what the people are like, what, the nature is like, the underrated foods and places. I just really want people to see why my heart is so connected here. And so if you find that that's you, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll post consistently. And feel free to in the comment below if you have questions about the country. But that's essentially the story of how I, someone from Wisconsin, African American person from Wisconsin, who never thought that they'd live in Europe, came and lived in Eastern Europe.